Whew. It's chilly out there. What's going on, everybody? Yes, winter is coming. It's actually here for some parts of the United States already. We actually just got our first snow here in Columbus about a week ago. So I figured now is the perfect time to go over some winter driving tips for electric cars. Like a lot of my other videos, many of these tips I'll be going over do apply to all EVs, but because I own a Model 3, some of these are specific to my car. Tesla actually has a really good support page with a bunch of winter driving tips for electric cars and Teslas, but make sure you stick around to the end of this video where I'll be going over some bonus tips that are not listed here. So first off, it is probably best to start with tires, where the literal rubber meets the road here. You can start off with just some easy things like checking your tire pressure, making sure they are properly inflated. If you need to know how much to inflate them, it's usually listed on the inside of your door. And you can also take a quick look at your tread, make sure it's not worn down too much, and you need to replace your tires before winter hits. You can take that a step further and get a good set of winter tires. I have not personally done this yet because my car was so new last winter, I figured it wasn't even worth it to get winter tires. But if your tires are getting a little older and you live in a place that gets really icy and snowy, winter tires are a great investment and will make sure you have a safer driving experience in the winter. You should also probably check your wiper fluid to make sure you've got the correct wiper fluid in there. Some wiper fluid is designed for colder temperatures, so it's a good idea to go with that if you have the option. But those are all things you probably should already be doing if you own a regular car. But what about electric vehicles? They've got that massive battery in there. How is that going to handle the winter? So if you own an electric car, you might have already realized that batteries do not like the cold. But if you take some precautions and kind of know what to expect, there's some things you can do to minimize the effect of cold on your battery. Probably one of the easiest things you can do is precondition your battery before you leave or before you drive your car. You can do this via the Tesla app, or you can actually schedule departure in your car. Not only does this preheat the cabin, but it also preheats the battery to make sure it's ready to drive. If you hop into your car before you've done any of this and it is really cold out, you'll probably notice this blue snowflake icon on the touchscreen. And this doesn't mean that you can't drive your car, but it does mean that the battery is cooled down to a point where it can't use all of its stored energy. Typically when this happens, regen is also limited, so your car isn't going to slow down as fast if you do let off the accelerator. But once your car does warm up and that battery warms up, or you've taken the precaution of preheating your battery, then you won't have to deal with that at all. Because your car is using so much energy to help keep the battery warm when you are driving your car, that means you might get a little bit less range, and driving more efficiently can actually help offset those effects of cold weather. Tesla suggests that you lower your speed a little bit and drive a little bit more conservatively, limit frequent accelerations where you're just gunning it all the time, and if possible, they do also suggest lowering the cabin temperature a little bit and using your seat heaters instead of the HVAC system to heat up your car. The seat heaters are actually a little bit more efficient and will waste less energy. If you aren't doing this already, Tesla also suggests that you leave your battery plugged in. This allows your car to use the charging system instead of your battery to keep your battery warm, and will also make sure that you aren't losing additional range while your car sits idle in the cold. One last thing you can do is actually just limit checking the Tesla app. I know I like to do this all the time, just check in on my car, see what the temperature is inside, see how much range it has, what percentage it's at, all that kind of stuff. But the more you do this, it actually wakes up the car and can use energy. So allowing your car to go into that deep sleep and kind of go into that sleep state will actually help it conserve energy in the winter. If you are expecting a lot of snow or ice overnight and your car is parked outside, there's probably some things you should do. First off, you want to go into your service tab on your Tesla menu and turn on wiper service mode. This will actually pop your wipers up a little bit to make sure they don't ice over and get frozen to the windshield. Next thing you want to do is deactivate your mirrors auto folding. Typically when you park, your mirrors will automatically fold in, but that can actually cause issues when you turn your car on again and need those to open back up so you can start driving. They can actually get frozen shut sometimes. So a good way to just avoid that altogether is turning that off and just leaving your mirrors open in the normal position overnight. If for some reason you forget to do that and you wake up in the morning and realize all the cars in your parking lot are completely frozen over, including yours, good thing to do is just start preheating your car right away. I usually did this in the morning. Back when I was driving to work, I would wake up in the morning, press preheat on my car, and by the time I got out to my car, it was pretty much thawed out and ready for me to drive, and the battery was all warmed up as well. This avoids a lot of the freezing issues, but if for some reason you aren't able to preheat your car or you're low on battery and need to still get into your car and start it up, there's a couple things that could happen overnight if your car does freeze. Because the Model 3 has such low profile door handles, those can actually freeze, and Tesla actually suggests that you just bump the door handle a little bit with the end of your fist to kind of pop it loose so that you can open up your door. Your autopilot sensors and cameras can start freezing over sometimes in the winter, and it's a good idea to go ahead and clear those off if you plan on using autopilot. I know the biggest issue for me has just been my radar freezing over, especially if we got that kind of sleety, like wetter snow that really sticks to your car even when you are driving. And Tesla suggests that you use Rust-Oleum Never Wet and actually spray that over the radar to make sure that ice and snow don't build up on your radar. I haven't had my radar freeze over too many times, and the new Model 3, I believe, actually has a radar heater, so they won't have to worry about this issue at all. In some rare cases, your charge port can actually freeze as well. I, again, personally have not had this issue. I've come out to my car before, and my car has been charging completely iced over and it is still charging. But if this does happen and your charge port is frozen, again, it's a good idea to go into the Tesla app and just preheat your car to make sure you can melt all that ice off. So the biggest changes actually driving your car are probably going to be with regenerative braking. If you've got that on standard where it's almost like a full regular friction brake, you're going to notice that that is not as aggressive as it used to be. Again, in colder weather, batteries do not like cold, so when it goes into that regen mode, your battery isn't able to recoup as much of that energy, so it just is wasted as heat. So if you want a more consistent driving experience in the winter, it's a good idea to go into your settings and change regenerative braking down to the low setting. This means that your car will behave more like a gas car and just coast when you let off the pedal, and you'll just have a more consistent driving experience and not have to worry about if your car is going to brake or not when you let off the accelerator. You'll know exactly what to expect and know it's going to be consistent every time you drive in the winter. So now for some bonus tips that I wasn't able to find on the Tesla website or in the Tesla Model 3 manual. First off, you are going to lose some range in the winter. That's just a fact with electric cars. They do not like the cold, and a lot of extra energy is used to heat up the battery and get it to a proper temperature for driving and charging and everything you want to do in an electric vehicle. So making sure if you are going on road trips or you're taking a lot of long drives, make sure you are planning those routes a little more carefully and expect a little bit of range loss. Personally, has not affected the way I have driven in the winter. I've still been able to make all the trips I want to make, drive everywhere I want to drive. It hasn't really affected my driving at all, but knowing that you can lose some range is important to remember. If I am going to be traveling, one thing I always do in the winter and all year round, quite honestly, is keep my Tesla mobile connector in my trunk and ready to go at all times. So if I do arrive somewhere where maybe there isn't regular level 2 charging, but there is a wall outlet to plug into, I can plug in there and make sure my battery doesn't get too cold and I'm not waking up with a dead battery. I actually recently just bought an extension cord as well that I'll be sticking in my car this winter to make sure I can reach those plugs sometimes, because the Tesla mobile connector doesn't always reach all the way. Another thing I suggest is getting a tire pump and some tire sealant to stick in your trunk. I know Tesla sells a little kit that has both of those combined, but I think the tire pump especially is important to keep in your trunk because temperature fluctuates a lot in the winter here. It can go from down below 30 to up over 50 depending on the day. So making sure I'm able to fill up my tires if necessary is important. So last tip here, definitely get some nice winter mats for your car. I picked up the Tesla branded one. They've held up pretty well, but I think there's definitely some better options out there if you want to get a little more heavy duty ones. This just makes sure that I'm not tracking a lot of snow and stuff and it's getting absorbed by the carpet in my car. I'm able to kind of clean that out and make sure it stays dry inside of my car. So I think that'll wrap it up. I will have the links to the Model 3 manual as well as Tesla's website with that support page and winter driving tips on there if you want to kind of read through some of these in a little bit more detail. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.